Hi, I'm Kathy Long with Nixit. I'm here to show you the coach portal. It is August 13th. We are 18 days away from our soft launch with a cohort of coaches, so I'll walk you through this. When you get to the login screen, you come straight into the dashboard, which is going to be your command center. You'll see that you have information on what has been completed that day and what is upcoming as regards to your tasks, and more on that later on in the session. In the dashboard, you see your week at a glance, and again, we are just starting. We are fresh. So this is what you'll be seeing when you first add all of your different clients and you start adding meetings to your calendar. So don't be afraid that there's not a lot in the past. We do have Google Sync, and we will sync your previous sessions once you're onboarded. And we'll walk you through onboarding very, very handheld and very white glove. You'll see that tomorrow we have a 10 o'clock appointment with one of our clients, Aiden, and there is a gap in this calendar, so it'll identify that you do have some time available based on your schedule. And the first thing you'll see is needs attention, Jasmine Ziegler. So she doesn't have a session this week. So the system puts this as a needs attention, and you can go ahead and click on schedule and schedule Jasmine for a session. Further down, you have a prep for Aiden. You only have one appointment. It's 60 minutes, and it's a weekly session. And you're going to review last session notes, prep session activity. You can also add prep tasks right here. So let's add a prep task, send over info on OTs. So I'm going to go ahead and add that. And so that is what I'm going to do to prep for that session with Aiden tomorrow. And you'll see further down, you'll see that there's a Camille Bedreau, a birthday in 23 days, because we like to celebrate everything here at Nixit. Let's move over to the Client tab. In the Client tab, you will see that Aiden Kovac needs attention because, again, he hasn't scheduled a meeting this week. So let's go ahead and check him out. You can see the short form card right here. You can always add a quick note or add the caregiver from the short form, but let's go into the full form. And over here, you see that Aiden is 20. He took a leave of absence from a computer science degree. And this information will be shared if you have other coaches in your practice or if you are sharing directly with the client what the client plan is. So this will be in a different video where we show you how it connects over to the consumer platform, because each of the parents and the child will have access to these notes. Key information, we have 3 goals. Last session was 726, 0 conflict flags, and next session 813. So anytime you come to look at the client, you'll know exactly what the status is of each client just based on looking at the client summary tab. And we can go into the actual goals. And under the goals, you'll have, we do a 3 perception or 3 intent goal triangle. So right now with the participant, we decide about January by the end of October. With the parent, a week with a shape to it. And with the coach, reestablish contact and build the rhythm. So those are some of the goals that they've set out together, and each of those goals are dependent on each other. Now, you as a coach might have different goals, but you can come in here and you can make any changes. So Aiden's own framing, a decision, not a resolution, return, defer again, or withdraw, written pros and cons in a shared document. So he's going to decide if he goes back to college or not. And then for the parents, we have not a full timetable, 3 fixed anchors for the week. And so we help them walk through that, and that'll be one of their goals. The great thing is that goals are shared interdependently. So on the consumer side, they see access to the goals. So remember, on the consumer side, the client has a free portal to have information back and forth with you, the coach. So at any given time, they will have the same information that you send off to them. In the session history, these are just notes. Again, we have started history and takeover for this client. They haven't really done a sufficient intake, so we don't have a lot of information just yet, but we have past notes. And again, this is what you'll be seeing that comes over as records from your Google Sync if you decide you want to do Google Sync. Over here, you can actually log your own session, but again, these sessions are predicated on future or at least upcoming events. And so we will work on that in a different tab. Over on the family, this is where we find that Mother Mira Kovac, that's the only parent that we have communication with Aiden for this particular page. And then we have private coach notes. These are notes that Aiden doesn't receive, and neither does his parent. But these are private notes, and you can decide if you want to share with other cohort if you have a coach environment with multiple coaches. Over here are documents, and you'll see you can upload a file. These will also be any sort of forms that you send out to the client for them to fill out. They'll just show up under here under client documents. And again, this needs attention. There was a limited intake, so we'll have to see what happens to this particular client. So things to try. This one's kind of fun. So these are things like try a 2-minute breathing reset before homework, and you can send these suggestions and they get to be accepted or declined by the user, because at Nixit we believe in self-determination, consent architecture, and self-agency. So those are some things that we think are really helpful for coaches to be able to impart wisdom to their clients. Over in the organizational tab, this is slightly different. This is for if you are in some sort of cohort where you have different coaches. So right now I don't have an additional coach. Right now I just have a roster and a client and my own calendar. But if I wanted to have multiple coaches and I want to see what their client distribution is, or if I am an administrator over an agency, I might have access to both calendars for each individual coach and be able to assign them different clients that come my way. And it could also be based on specialty, but that's up to you. And then you can see that you have the week at a glance, day at a glance, and month at a glance calendar. And you can see what's happening that day, and then obvious scroll as a calendar is. We're not really reinventing any of that. And then these are some of the organizational features that you can have if you are a team coach. Now over here are forms. So right now we just have one form, and you can go ahead and you can create your own form. It's pretty basic. We're going to be building this one out. So any information you have or anything that you would recommend, we'd love to hear. So right here is where you could do a short text, long text, drop down multiple choice checkboxes. And the great thing is when you have this, you can send it to any of the clients, even if they haven't done an intake yet, as long as you have an email. Moving over to submissions, this would be if an intake form by you had been sent over, and then if you receive it, it goes under the documents under that particular client, and you get a notification when it's received. That's pretty common. Over here, insights. Insights right now are based on progress and momentum and goals, but it's also attendance and engagement. So these are some of the things that we're going to be working through as we build this out over the next month. But right now, that's what those two values are, is attendance, engagement, and goals. Over here is the communications portal. And under the communications portal, you can send an announcement. So let's send an announcement that new fall hours starting immediately. So I need to send one to the entire practice. It's an urgent notice. It's high. And I can say fall hours are from 9 to 5 every day except Saturdays. All right, and I'm going to send that. It's going to be notified by email and SMS. So it's going to trigger a big send for everything. And then over here we have a chat, and in the chat, this is really great where you can have multiple people. So I can send to an individual. So let's find somebody to send this to. I'm going to send it to, right now we don't have the consumer necessarily connected, but I have myself connected on the other portal. So I can say, please send me the intake form that out, and then they can communicate back and forth with me. You can also see what are the shared documents. So I sent out an intake form, and we also have shared our care plan. So you know what you shared with them, so you have that information. Any little extra notes that you want in the communications portal, you can put right here, and they'll save it, and then you can have it for whenever you need to communicate, such as their pronouns or something you want to really call out to make sure that you remember it and it's something in part of your communication. You can also communicate directly with the circle, and you'll see everybody is in this circle, but you can actually add and create as many circles as you want, and I'll show you that in a minute. So over here, you can create a new circle. So let's say Long Family Circle. So we're going to create the circle, and then in the circle is going to be Kathy Long. She's in that circle, and I'm going to send it to her as a member. So you can send it as a contributor, a caregiver, a member, and Depending on who is in your office is who can actually have access to any of these communications. Right now, it would be restricted to the people and the members who are talking to that individual. And then over here in settings, this is your practice. So this is where you can come up here and edit. You can put your picture name so that your client can see your picture. You can put your information, credentials. This is your default meeting link. This is where if you have a Google Meet or you have a Zoom, you put it in here and it will save up to, at least in Google Meet, it'll save up to 365 days as long as you continue to use that link for your invite. And so you'll still be able to use your Google Meet, you'll still be able to use your Zoom, and if you have an AI note taker through that, you'd be able to still receive that information. And it could be useful to copy and paste into your notes, which is something we are looking to sync in the future to make it easier for you to keep everything all together. And then over the practice settings, these are the practice settings that everybody will follow. So if somebody tries to message you from the consumer portal, they know what dates or what times you're quiet. So not if they text you at 10 p.m., they know that you won't be disturbed until the next morning when you receive that information, and you won't get notifications during those hours. And then communication preferences are right there. What your time zone is right now, I'm going to say I'm Mountain Time Zone. And then over here in notifications are just how you want to receive notifications and what your quiet hours are. And then over here in circles are where you add and configure all your circles. So for example, I'm the owner of this circle and I've invited one member and I can invite more members from that. You also have a very specific invite code that you can copy and paste and send to a client as well. Then over here is just the billing plan, just helps you manage your own billing with us. And so that should make it so much simpler. So I'm going to go ahead and save the changes, go back to the dashboard. I hope you book a call with us. We would love to demo this in person and answer any questions that you might have. Thank you.